Very happy morning, doctors. Uh, Today we are going to see about assessment of fertilization failures, cleavage arrest. So, directly moving on to the topic. So, what is fertilization? Fertilization is like when we are going for ICSI or when we are going for IVF, and when we have injected the oocyte with a sperm, when the two gametes meet and they create a pronuclei, like two pronuclei will be there, one from the oocytes, one from the sperms. So, seeing those two pronuclei, we can say that it has gone to a zygote stage, say it has got fertilized or it has not got fertilized. So this fertilization is very, very crucial, and it can be seen 16 to 18 hours after insemination. So either it be IVF or either it is ICSI cycle also. It can be seen 16 to 18 hours. Some oocytes is like it depends on the gamete factor also. Some gametes 16 hours we can see, some gametes 16 hours we cannot see. 18 hours, and some the fertilization, the pronuclei will not dissolve till 24 hours. So keeping this in consideration, if we are not checking in the particular timings, what will happen is the pronuclei will dissociate. So it is very crucial that we stick to the timings, and every time we inseminate, we need to see this fertilization the next day. It is very, very important, and we cannot skip this fertilization at all. And normal fertilization is identified by exactly two pronuclei in the center of the zygote. So I will be explaining how we need to check and what all need to be uh, kept in mind while we are doing fertilization checks. So fertilization is considered abnormal when there is only one pronuclei or two pronuclei. So pronuclear assessment. So moving on to it, it was published by Scott and Smith, and relies on three major features. One is size, location of the nuclei, appearance of the cytoplasm, number and size, distribution pattern of the nuclei. So for example, I am showing it here. So this is a oocyte, very normal oocyte, which is having pronuclei. So this is the pronuclei, 1 and 2. So they are arranged in the center of the oocyte. If you see, it should be in the center. And there are few dots here. So these are called NPBs, nuclear precursor bodies there. So each pronuclei will have these many NPBs, the other one will have these many. So one is from the oocyte, the other one will be from the sperm. If you see here, there are two polar bodies. So generally, one polar body will be there, like which we call it as M2, which is a matured oocyte. And after injection, like after insemination, if it has got fertilized, the second polar body will get extruded. So this is a typical thing which happens in a routine cycles. Every cycle, every ICSI, every IVF, this is what is happening, and we need to, the next 16 to 18 hours post insemination, we need to come, we need to score the zygote, saying how it is placed, where it is placed, polar body found or not. So all these things we need to see. So fertilized oocyte or zygote contain two pronuclei. So this is the two, one from the male partner and one from the female partner. And also the second polar body is visible at this time. So second polar body also will be visible. The oocyte with more than two pronuclei are abnormal because of having extra set of chromosome, and are kept separate and will not be transferred. So why it is very crucial that we are checking for check? That is that sometimes it will have only one pronuclei. Sometimes they will be having multiple pronuclei, say 3 or 4 also. It means that they are having the oocytes, or it is not having a complement like a set of chromosome. They are having some extra set of chromosome, or they are having less number of. So when it is less, like 1 PNs, or when it is more, like 3 PNs. So abnormal fertilization says that the zygote is abnormal. and sometimes we will not be able to carry on with the pregnancies, or sometimes they'll not even progress to be a good embryos. So whenever we find that, the next day we come and we do routine for checks, and we find this kind of abnormal fertilization, we separate them. We keep them in a separate drop, and we just mark it, so that the next day we know that they are not from the normal fertilization. So grading of day one. So day one we do fertilization check. Day one is called, like day 0 is called ICSI day, insemination day. The next day will be called as day 1 embryo. So day 1 embryo will have they are called like fertilized or unfertilized embryo. So these are all the patterns. There are like so many patterns here, how we grade the pronuclei. So the first one is called grade 1, ZN1. If the pronuclei, they have zoomed this one here. So this is a pronuclei, this is the NPBs. So all these NPBs should be aligned in a similar manner, in a similar way. If you see this pronuclei will have this way, this one will have this way. If this is the alignment, very similar, equal number of nucleoli aligned at the PN junction. So in the junction, if it is aligned, it is called Z1. And the second grade is equal number. Again, equal number should be there. That is 4 this side, 4 this side, or 8 this side, 8 this side. So equal number and equally scattered. Say like this manner, equally scattered. It can be scattered, but this manner. If this is there, it is called grade 2. So grade 3. So there are 2 categories in grade 3. Say equal number of nucleoli, one is aligned and one is scattered. So this is aligned, this is scattered. So it is called grade 3. Again, unequal number and size of nucleoli. Say unequal. See, here we have 6. Here we have only 3. Again, the size is different. This is big, this is small. So unequal number, it is graded as 3. P in size is different. It is graded as 4. One is big, one is small. So this different sizes is called graded as 4. So fertilized oocytes that have pronuclei of very different sizes have an 87% incidence of chromosomal abnormalities. So this is what it is called. If it is having different sizes, it is having chromosomal abnormalities. Again, they will not be a good embryo. They cannot progress to be a good embryo. Some cases, they can progress to be a good embryo, but you may not have a pregnancy. In case you have a pregnancy also, we will be end up with missed abortions. So these are all the categories when we can score from day 1 only that what can happen. We can predict what it is. So fertilized oocytes that have very small pronuclei or fragmented nuclei or generally abnormal, displaying poor and retarded development. So poor and retarded development is also seen. So here it is not clearly visible, it is small. One is small, the other one is big. So now going on to nucleoli precursor bodies, Z3 category. So this is that 3 category. So unequal distribution will be there, and unequal number also will be there. So in this category, what is happening? Z3 zygotes are characterized by inequality between the nuclei, unequal sizes, nucleoli, and nuclear number of nuclei, and unequal alignment. So all these conditions are there in this Z3. So basically what people say is this 1 and 2 category will yield a better embryo quality and will give us better pregnancy rates also. But the 3 and 4, here it is, they have graded this way against the 1, 2, 3, 4 earlier grading. So based on certain labs will have different kind of grading. So this is 1, 2, 3. This way also people will grade. Z3 1. In that Z3 we have category 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So this is Z3 1. So in this one category, this is the alignment. So in this Z3 2 category, so this alignment will be there. One is aligned, one is unaligned. In that Z3 3 category, so this alignment. So it is like depth we are going for the unequal sizes categories. So the fourth category is a 4 category. So we saw that the PNs only will be unequal, and also sometimes they will be like scatteredly arranged, and in some other corner it will be arranged. Say it is not arranged in the center of the cytoplasm. So it may be here, present here, or in this corner, or in this corner. So in those scenarios, what will happen? Again, we are compromising the embryo quality is not going to be good, or there will not be a normal chromosomal set carrying zygotes. So some live example. If you see, this is 1 PN. So only 1 PN is there. Again, abnormal fertilization. You can see 3 PNs here. One is of smaller size, 2 are of bigger size, scattered NPBs are there. Again, abnormal fertilization. When we see such kind of fertilization, we mark it and keep it separate. If you see here, you can see 4 PNs are there. Here 2 PNs are there, aligned correctly. Here again 2 PNs. If you see here, NPBs are very less. So again, not of good grade. Here if you see, PNs are very good, like aligned equally. So D, E, F have 2 PN, a sign of normal fertilization. So generally we see this kind of fertilization, which is normal. 2 and alignment is also okay. This is not of, this is having 1 PN, 3 and 4 abnormal fertilizations. So moving on to why ICSI? Why always ICSI? ICSI was developed to overcome low fertilization rate. So sometimes when we are having low fertilization rates, people have developed a procedure called ICSI that occurs mainly in patients with male factor infertility or prior unexplained or lower fertilization rates. So when the FERT rate is low, or we are expecting a low FERT rate or of male factor, we can go for ICSI. So given the accumulated evidence of its safety and efficacy, ICSI has been widely used not only in male factor infertility but also in non-male factor infertilities. So nowadays, if you see everywhere, mostly in India, every center will have only ICSIs, blindfold ICSIs, because we don't want to end up with having total FERT failures or less number of fertilization. Already we'll be retrieving oocytes which are of compromised quality. We don't want to make the patient struggle. So to avoid that, now people have adapted ICSI on like regularly for all the patient in spite of whatever factor it is. So here are certain pictures. First one is GV. If you see, it is in a germinal vesicle stage. It is a immature oocytes, which is not suitable for ICSI. We are going to discard or we are going to culture it. And the next day, if they get converted to M2, then only we can perform ICSI. So this is again a GV. If you see, you have a round with one dot here. It is not of this will be before ICSI. Like after denudation, we can see this. So not to confuse with 1 PNs, the size will be very large and there will be only one vesicle here, which is this dot we call it as germinal vesicle stage. Okay. So the second one is a M1 oocyte. So you can see there are no polar bodies. PV space, this is the perivitelline space, zona pellucida and cytoplasm. This in between space, if you see, there is nothing. So we call it as M1 oocyte. This is a normal M2 oocyte. If you see, it has a nice zona and cytoplasm is fine. Inclusions are there, these dots. And then we have a polar body. So when we see this, this is a normal M2 oocyte which is ready to do ICSI. And if you see the E, it shows typical funnel shape that appears after ICSI. So when we do ICSI, I think most of you would have seen, or you will be seeing it in your practical sessions. When you do this ICSI, you see that oocyte is having a hollow. It will create a funnel. So this says that the plane of the oocyte and the plane of your needles and the injection technique is good, and your oocyte is good. It is having resistance and it is rigid. So if all these things are good, we will get this funnel shape. If the technique is not good, or if the oocytes are post matured or immature, like cytoplasmically, then we don't get this funnel type of thing, which means that the oocyte might get degenerated. If you see, this will happen after ICSI. So once ICSI has been done and there is no resistance like this, it is a normal oocyte without resistance, the oocyte's cytoplasm will start to leak outside. And slowly what will happen, it will go to this stage. Oocyte will get degenerated. This is denudation damage. Sometimes what will happen when we are very harsh or when the oocyte is very fragile, when we are denuding it manually, this will happen. The cytoplasm will leak. So why I am showing this photo is that something which goes wrong in this technique will also have degeneration. Again, it will affect our fertilization. Sometimes they will not degenerate, but they will not fertilize also. When the breakage is not good, when the oocyte cannot know, like oocyte will not be able to know that the sperm has entered inside. So we need to have this kind of breakage. Sometimes oocytes are fragile, will not get, still it is fine. They will get fertilized, but most of the scenarios, what will happen, if the oocyte cytoplasmically is not matured, then the fertilization rate will fall down. So FERT failures. So going on to this topic, total fertilization failure. So short form I have written it as TFF. Failure of fertilization in all matured oocytes. So whatever we have injected, everything failed. Say we have injected 10 in a cycle, 10 failed to fertilize. It is called TFF, which is very rare. And failed fertilization in any mature oocytes or partial fertilization failure, that is less than 30 percentage. So less than 30 percentage oocytes have got fertilized, in the sense we are calling it as FERT failures. So incidence of TFF in IVF cycle, if you see, is 5 to 10%. And incidence of TFF in ICSI cycle is 1 to 3%. So this is why people opt for ICSI than IVF. And TFF reoccurrence in subsequent IVF is around 30%. So we have 30% chance for that to happen again. So ICSI MC causes low M2 or oocyte activation failure. So in ICSI, if we have less number of M2s, or if the oocyte is not if it is not getting activated, then we can see this FERT failures. So going on to procedural causes of fertilization failures after ICSI. So what might cause this procedure wise? Oocyte membrane may not be broken. Say when I have showed you the funnel shape, say if it is not in a same plane, we need to have a high skilled professional so that they know how to inject the oocyte in a similar plane, like having them all in a same plane. Injection needle, holding needle, and the oocyte should be in a same plane. And when we inject, the membrane will break and form a funnel shape. If this is not done properly, again fertilization failures we can expect. Again degenerations also we can expect. And the next one is sperm may adhere to the tip of the injection needle. Sometimes what will happen, these are all like normal troubleshooting which happens in the lab. So when the technician is injecting the oocyte with sperm, sometimes they go and they get stuck in the injection tip of the injection needle, and they cannot go inside. So this is the injection needle. Here it will get stuck. So they will inject, they will come outside, and the sperm will also come outside with the needle. So this kind of troubleshooting will happen where we will get failed fertilizations again. Too much of ooplasma aspiration leads to degeneration. So there is a quantity, like how much we need to aspirate and how fast it should be, how softly we should handle. So all these things mattered, or it will get degenerated. Again, FERT failures will happen. Then improper orientation of polar body and needle. So as we know, orientation should be either 6 o'clock position, or it should be 12 o'clock position. This polar body should be in this shape, this position. It is called 12 o'clock. When it is aligned this way, injection needle will be here, holding needle will be here. So this position we can do ICSI, or it should be right below, ulta position. So this will be 6 o'clock position. Then we can do ICSI. If we do ICSI keeping it here, here, it will not give us good fertilization, because we are going to disrupt this area where our mitochondria, this centrosomes will be present in this area. So we don't want to touch here, where we are going to again compromise the quality. Causes of failed fertilization in IVF. So in case we are going for an IVF cycle, what are the causes for the failed fertilization? So first one is cumulus cell penetration. So the sperms need to penetrate the cumulus cell, and then they need to go into the oocyte. Sometimes when they are when the all these factors, growth differentiation factor GDF, this one, and bone morphologic protein, it is called BMP 15 secretion. So if it is abnormal, then cumulus differentiation or increased apoptosis will be seen, affecting the sperm to penetrate and for the acrosomal reaction. So next, going to zona binding. So in case if something is happening in this sector, we will be having failed fertilization. In zona binding, it is abnormal production of this zona binding protein 1, 2, 3. If all these productions are abnormal, then again we are not going to get a fertilization. Again, the next one, if you see, it will be fusion, inadequate ulema reception expression. So if these proteins are inappropriate, then lack of essential signaling proteins are there, resulting in lack of membrane. So if all these membrane activities are not very good, then we are going to see failed fertilization. So causes of failed fertilization in ICSI cycles. Okay. So in IVF, we are just going to inseminate the sperms with the oocytes and leave them. But in ICSI, we are going to inseminate them inside the cytoplasm. So what happens here? Activation. Main thing is oocyte activation should happen, and signaling of calcium ionophores, which oscillations, which will cause the activation. If some malformation is there in this, or endoplasmic reticulum, or mitochondria, or signaling pathways, so all these things will not go on with the activation protocol, and sometimes we get failed FERT. The next one is sperm processing. So failed sperm head decondensation, which is very, very important. So once the sperm enters, the head needs to decondense, and then we can see that polar body extrusion will be there. And again, the pronuclear formation will be there. So this decondensation process, if it fails to fusion or activate the events of normal phosphorylation inside the oocyte, then again we are going to see failures. Then pronuclear formation. Insufficient oocyte storage of membrane vesicles, like all these metabolic membrane vesicles, if some failure is happening, we are not going to see pronuclei. Again, a defective chromatin remodeling can result in multiple pronuclei. Sometimes the defects in that will have that 3 pronuclei formation, everything will be there. Causes of fertilization failure. So, oocyte maturity. Again, going on to that, only 2 characteristics of successful oocyte maturation can be assessed. Uh, so, they have assessed certain things here. GV and extrusion of first polar body. So, the oocyte should break the GV stage, and then it should go to the M1 and continuously to the M2 stage, and that is the first polar body extrusion. So it should not be a GV, it should not be a M1, it should be a M2 oocyte. Then only we can inject, and then we can assess the maturity. So what they say is about 20% of retrieved oocytes are M1s or GV. So not that all the cycles, whatever oocytes we are retrieving will be M2 oocytes. We will be expecting 30 oocytes, or we say in a normal cycle we expect 10 or 20 oocytes also. 20% of it will be M1 or GB, which is very common. And this we cannot inject, and we are going to either discard or we can culture and do a rescue ICSI the next day. So during the final oocyte maturation, the ability to generate calcium oxalation is developed within the oocyte. So final step when the oocyte is maturing, then only the oocyte will start developing to generate the calcium oscillations. So successful fertilization depends on the inherent quality and cytoplasmic maturity of the oocyte. So not only the nuclear maturity. Nuclear maturity is this GV, M1, this stage which we can see it in the microscope and judge that they are matured. So what I mean to say is whatever M2 oocyte which we get also, we cannot determine they are cytoplasmically matured or not. We don't have a technique to find it out whether they are cytoplasmically matured. Sometimes oocytes will be nuclear maturity will be there, M2 oocytes are there, but cytoplasmic maturity will take further more time, or it must have completed earlier. So while we are doing ICSI, we will come to know if the oocyte is having resistance, we are going to call it as cytoplasmically matured. If the oocyte are not having resistance, they might be prematured or in some cases post-matured also. So this maturity, this cytoplasmic maturity will again result in failures. So going on to the other factors of fertilization failures, say in non-male factor infertility, such as unexplained poor oocyte quality, low oocyte yield, or advanced maternal age. So ICSI has been used to improve the fertilization and to reduce total FERT failures. However, the efficacy of ICSI in non-male factor infertility is still controversial. So some people will prefer, some people are not going to prefer. So while several sibling oocyte studies, like half oocytes they have did ICSI, half they have did IVF, and they have made a study. In this study, higher fertilization after ICSI compared with conventional insemination with patients of unexplained infertility has been shown. But ICSI increases fertilization rate, but no difference of pregnancy outcome in patients with non-male factor infertility. So that cannot be predicted, but they have concluded that yes, ICSI will give more fertilization rates compared to our conventional IVF. In ICSI techniques, so in case of poor oocyte quality, several studies supported the efficacy of ICSI. So when we are suspecting a poor oocyte quality, we can go ahead with ICSI in non-male factor infertility also. So low oocyte yield is there. Those patient also we can take ICSI because we don't want to compromise giving it for IVF. Next, moving on to oocyte activation. So failed fertilization. I have already told what happens in oocytes. So when the oocyte is not very well activated, again the pronuclear formation will get affected. So in this case, in case of oocyte activation failure, artificial means of oocyte activation are helpful. So calcium ionophores we can use. We can, after the ICSI, we can put the oocytes in those calcium ion content for 1 hour or 30 minutes depending on the protocol of the lab. And then we can keep them for culture, which studies have shown that it can increase artificial acceleration of the oocyte activation, and then fertilization have been noted in these scenarios also. So this happens in case of globozoospermia. All these patients we can predict, or any first cycle they have gone and failures they have seen, like total FERT failure, something like this is there. Those kind of scenario we can use some calcium ionophores chemical reagents, which will increase the activation of the oocyte, and we can get fertilization out of it. So going on to poor oocyte morphology. So again, FERT failure, what is the reason? Poor oocyte morphology. Oocyte is not of good quality. We will not be able to expect a good fertilization. And dysmorphic phenotypes. So if it is not a normal oocyte, many abnormalities is there or dysmorphism is there. That may also go on for the fertilization failures. So this dysmorphic oocyte, which arises in early meiotic maturation, so that time only it will arise, it is inherited and may be associated with failed fertilization aneuploidy. So all these things are there. So I have shown here dysmorphic oocytes. If you see, this is a kind of normal oocyte. I have showed normal oocyte in earlier pictures. So I think you will know. So this is how a normal oocyte should be. There is no dysmorphism. Everything is normal. Cytoplasm is fine. Polar body is of correct size. Zona is correct. There is a PV space. This space, perivitellin space is correct. Everything is fine. So this is a normal oocyte. Going on to dysmorphic oocytes, you can see vacuole, multiple polar bodies, multiple sizes of polar bodies, irregular shape of cytoplasm. Again, we have cytoplasm breakage here. You can see small fragments here. So fragmented this one cyto or PV debris is there. Debris in PVS. We can term it that way also. And this is ovoid oocytes. So this has one more polar body here. Two polar bodies. Here again multiple polar bodies, small size. Again septate zona. You can see this septum kind of thing here, ovoid oocytes. So here cumulus will be there inside the zona sometimes. Might be due to denudation errors or inherent also. So multiple vacuoles. So SCR come vacuole and again vacuoles, dark cytoplasm, pitted cytoplasm, severe granulation. So this is central pitting, center of the cytoplasm, the severe granulation is there and dark oocytes. So all these category, we can expect FERT failures, we can expect cleavage arrest, we can expect poor embryo formation. So lower pregnancy and implantation rates when they are transferred embryos of this kind of oocytes. So sometimes we may get okay kind of embryos, say grade 2 embryos, or sometimes we may get grade 1. It is not possible always to get a grade 1 embryo out of dysmorphic oocytes, but sometimes we may get grade 1 embryos, and transferring them sometimes will not give us a good pregnancy rates. And this dysmorphism might be same, you can rectify if it is drug related. If it is not drug related and inherent, it is not going to change, and you are going to see this dysmorphism repeating again and again in all the cycles which you are going to do. So cytoplasmic abnormalities, I have again showed that you have multiple vacuoles, everything here in the first one. Again it is carrying over to the second one, again it is carried over to the after fertilization also it is there, again in the morula stage also it is there, blastocyst stage also it is there. Blastocyst is forming good, but it is having a vacuole, like sometimes will not give us good pregnancy, or sometimes they can go to aneuploidies also. So this vacuole, it is very common dysmorphism which we can see in a oocyte, and they are membrane bound cytoplasmic inclusions. So they are nothing but fluid filled in a cytoplasm cavity. So this will, they are saying that this will impair the development of embryo, and also implantation rates will be very minimal. And cytoplasmic fragmentation. So about fragmentation more than 50% has negative impact of successful pregnancies. So we should not have any fragmentations which may impair our pregnancy rates. So going on to cleavage stage embryos. So 24 to 26 hours post insemination, we can see this two cell stage, and 22 two cell to 4 cell stage, and 42 to 44 hours we can see 4 to 8 cell stage, and all the blastomeres should be equal size. So going on to the grading of the blastomeres, this is how they cleave. So it was one cell, they have cleaved in equal proportion. Again this equal proportion will cleave into equal proportion this way. Again this will divide this way and go to this size. So equally it should cleave. So 66 to 68 hours post insemination should have 8 or more blastomeres and lesser than 20% fragmentation. So this is a 2 cell embryo, typical 4 cell embryo. This is 5, 6, 8 and 10 cell embryo. So this is a normal embryo. This is how it should look. There should be no fragmentation and equal blastomeres arrangement. So too slow or too rapid embryo growth has a negative impact of implantation rates. Then increased chromosomal abnormality is also seen in this too rapid or too slow embryo. So whatever stage we have told, it should be stage specific, time specific. Nuclear multinucleation. So multinucleated embryo has been associated with low implantation rates. Multinucleated blastomeres have seen in 30% of the embryos produced in vitro, or more than 70% of the cycles, at least one multinucleated embryo will be there. So day 2 evaluation better is because of larger dimension and better optically accessibility of the multinucleation. So that is why we are doing day 2 assessment. If you see in day 2, we can see this. This is called multinucleation. This is a normal 2 cell embryo with one nucleus in each blastomeres. So one blastomere is having only one nucleus. The other one is having one. This is a normal mononuclear. If you see multinuclear, you can see this two nucleus in one blastomere. So abnormal binucleated embryo. Sometimes two nucleus are there binucleated, sometimes 3 will be there, 4 will be there, which is called multinuclear. Again, they are saying that they will be an abnormal embryo. Why do some embryos arrest in vitro? Approximately 10% of human embryo stops cleavage after fourth cell stage, and 1% early cleavage, that is 26 to 28 hours post insemination, and 15% will have arrest 32 hours. 40% of all patients have at least one embryo with permanent arrest. So it is very common when we are going for an IVF or HCG cycle, these arrests are common. So possible reasons. So what are the reasons for that? Maybe culture conditions, maybe genetics or cellular components like mitotic spindle, other things, and morphological abnormalities in the oocyte or the embryo, or molecular component, how it is in the zygote. So everything will contribute to the arrests. So going on to fragmentation, when the cytoplasm are not equally divided, as I showed how the blastomere should be, some some fragments like some cytoplasmic components which is not containing any DNA will be extruded outside, because they are not going to give any what to say, any potence for the embryo to develop. So whatever is considered as not necessary, the embryo will extrude them outside. So we can see some fragments outside the cytoplasm. So the degree of fragmentation is very important when we are grading an embryo. So the relative degree of fragmentation is defined as mild if it is 10%, moderate 10 to 25%, or severe in cases of 25%. So I will show an example. So this is a normal embryo, no fragments. If you see this way, you can see there are few dots here. So these are all the fragments where the embryo has considered that you have no role to play and they have extruded them outside. So this kind of little bit extruded, we call it as grade 2. So some unequal, even blastomeres are there, but slight fragmentation is there. So blastomeres are even, no fragmentation, grade 1, slight fragmentation, grade 2, and uneven size of blastomere. Say one blastomere has taken most of the cytoplasm, the two has taken the little part. So this kind of unequal blastomeres and no fragmentation, grade 3, and even or uneven size blastomeres, moderate fragmentation, grade 4. Fully fragmented, you cannot even recognize where is the blastomeres or how is the fragmentation, grade 5. So normally we get good pregnancy rate in these two grades. Mild fragmentation is still fine. Scattered fragmentation is still fine. Sometimes it will be in one position. Sometimes fragments will be here, everywhere. And it is still fine. We will get pregnancy in these two scenarios. But in these three scenarios, embryo is not going to progress well and we are not going to get pregnancy. So it is very difficult in these three scenarios. So if you see alignment, this is how the three. GGIR, can you mute? Yeah, thank you. So the arrangement should be this way. This is the 3D structure. One blastomere here, one is backside, one is here, one. So this kind of arrangement, this is arranged. We can see only 3 cells if you see. 1, 2, 3, it is here. Again, the embryologist will magnify and we can see the 4th cell here. Because it is not a 3D plane, the normal microscope, we will see this way, which is still fine. Please mute GGIR HR. GGIR HR, can you please mute?
Yes, ma'am.
Please mute HR. So here I have showed example. This is having 0% fragmentation. This is having 10% fragmentation, 10 to 25% fragmentation, more than 25% fragmentation. So even sperm factor, not only other factors like fragmentations or other, like sperm factors also will play a major role in embryo arrest. So blastocyst formation rates were shown to be lower after ICSI than IVF cycles. So sometimes it is lower in ICSI cycles than IVF because maybe we are injecting it rigorously. Embryo development, pregnancy, and implantation rates have been found to be affected by the source of sperm, that is, ejaculate or epidermal or testicular. Say if it is an ejaculate normal sperm, sometimes we have a better embryo quality. Sometimes when we are going for a PISA sperm, in high DFI cases, we go for a PISA sperm. And sometimes we go for a testicular sperm also. In case of azoospermia, like that, we retrieve testicularly and we do cycles with that. So how a normal ejaculate embryo behaves, it is not how the epidermal or the testicular embryo behaves. Sometimes they might be slow, sometimes pregnancy rates might be here and there. But not very drastically. So ICSI using testicular sperm have been found to produce low fertilization and pregnancy rates than normal ejaculated sperms. Finally, fertilization, embryo development, blastocyst formation, pregnancy, implantation, everything is very important. After ICSI are significantly lower in non-obstructive AZU patients in comparison to obstructive AZU patients. So embryo development can also be influenced by the quality of DNA in the sperm head. So if the sperm head is carrying a normal good quality DNA, we are going to get a normal embryo, we are going to get pregnancy. If it is not of that grade, then again we are going to see all these failures or whatever I have explained earlier, that is there. It is speculated that oocytes having ability to correct a small scale of DNA damage. So minor DNA damage in sperm, sometimes oocyte is of average or good quality, they may correct it. And they may still develop to be a good embryo and they will give us pregnancy and a healthy baby. But when when the DNA damage is more, then the oocyte will not be able to cope up. If the oocyte quality is also compromised, they will not be able to cope up. And then ultimately we'll be getting poor grade embryos or embryo arrests like that. So embryo arrest will happen, early cleavage division, from there it is going to happen under maternal control during transcriptions accumulated during oogenesis. So from, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my connection got cut. Sorry for that. So what I mean to say is sometimes it is gamete factor. Sometimes, yeah, other signalings are there, like outside culture conditions also and technique wise also. So everything are going to go for an embryo to get arrested or the embryo to get progressed and to be a normal healthy baby. That's all. So that is all. We have come to the end of the session. I hope you have understood about fertilization and failures and what has happened and how to score the fertilization and about cleavage and the gradings. Again, how is the fragmentation index or what will happen when the arrests are happening. So I think we have understood that in today's class. And if there are any doubts, you can ask me now. Any doubts, doctors? Have you seen fertilization or ICSIs?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I had a few students I showed here. I think in next practical classes, if you are posted to the centers and you're coming for the OPUs or something pickups, you can stay back for some times because we do ICSI after 3 hours only. We are giving the 3 hours time because sometimes we are waiting for the oocyte to have nuclear maturity or again cytoplasmic maturity. Even we get M2s, we don't know they'll be cytoplasmically matured. So we'll not be denuding them right away after pickup. We will be waiting for say 3 hours and then only we are denuding because 35th hours they are doing pickup. So till 38 hours we will wait. Before 40th hour we should finish ICSI or again we will be having this failures and arrests and poor development. So if you can wait for 2 or 3 hours and you can talk to the embryo department, embryologist, and they will show you. You can be there and you can see ICSI. So I think it will be better if you see the ICSI and if you can understand what is happening in the lab. Next time you can see that. And FERT checks, it is not very easy to see because we do it in the early mornings. Say we are doing ICSI 12 o'clock, we'll be doing the next day like 8 o'clock like that. 7:30, 8 o'clock. So maybe it is not possible. If you are there, you can ask embryologists so early if you're coming for OPUs, if it is posted early. If it is not in that scenario, yeah, we'll not be able to see. But some day 3 embryos or when we are doing FETs, you can still go inside and you can see assess the day 3 embryos. They'll show you. So I think we have come to the end of the session and we will be winding it now.
Thank you, Vidya ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Doctors, any doubts or can we wind up with this Vidya ma'am's session?
Ma'am, to study this all from Gardner, we have to study, ma'am, this topic?
Yeah, Gardner, you can use Gardner, ma'am. It is very standard. It has all these topics covered. Okay. And clearly, whatever I have explained about all the grading, everything is there with pictures. You can follow Gardner.